Trumpists as well as Dugin appear to want to preserve the conservative and religious values within the family and of society. They are clearly in opposition to this one world, transgendered, homosexual, transhumanist dystopia that Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum agents are trying to bring about with their Great Reset. To Dugin's further credit, he is, to my surprise, this is a list, to Dugin's further credit, he is anti-communism, or in today's world, anti-socialism, anti-fascism, anti-colonialism, anti-progressivism, anti-capitalism, anti-slavery, anti-materialism, anti-atheism. He's pro-Christian, he's pro-Islam, he's pro-spirituality, he's pro-traditional values, he's pro-sacred ancient beliefs and teachings. This is all despite his very dubious earlier life, despite some questionable associations he has had, and despite what his personal religious beliefs currently are or has been. And he is even, now check this bit out, and he is even anti-modern medicine, anti-vaccines, anti-technology, he's against DNA altering, etc. And, this will surprise people as well, and he is pro-Hijra. He's got a special section where he's talking about making exodus from the big industrial cities, returning to real life on the earth, practicing agriculture. This is all very much in line with our fitrah. My question to you, Sheikh, is, as Muslims, or hopefully as mu'mins believers, should we take the side of Dugin's fourth political theory and be part of their great awakening simply because they are against the greater evil of the World Economic Forum soul-destroying Great Reset?
It must have been 10 years ago.
ونصلي على رسول الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalammualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Wais.
Thank you for bearing patience. We had a few problems with the mic. It's great to have you back here in London, Sheikh. With the speed at which things were accelerating in 2021, it looked like that was going to be your last trip. But alhamdulillah, here we are. It goes to show that they plan, but Allah also plans. And indeed, Allah is the best of all planners. How was your Ramadan in Trinidad?
We praise and we thank Allah, and we are grateful to Him for all that He's done for us. We are grateful to Him for having protected us from so long, and especially at this time, these last 18 months, that attacks have been constantly launched against me. My profile of scholarship appears to be a threat to so many, and I understand that the attacks always will continue so long as I'm alive, and even after Allah calls me away from this world, they'll still be attacking me. So Ramadan was wonderful in Trinidad. My daughter was doing her final year exams at the University of the West Indies. She was very busy, and yet she took time off every night of Ramadan after I would return home from the Salah, dari, to record a video and then to upload it. And that's how you're able to get a video from me every day of Ramadan. We thank Allah, and we thank my daughter Hira, yes.
Yes, that was quite an incredible effort. We really did appreciate seeing a video from yourself every day. And how about your flight back to the UK?
Allah was kind. Allah was kind to me, yes, that we got the funding for my ticket, and I had a very pleasant flight. British Airways treated me very well. Alhamdulillah, I ordered a Muslim meal, and I got some curry and rice.
Alhamdulillah. That's good. Okay, so Sheikh, we'll try not to waste any time. We'll respect your time as well. So this interview was initially planned in September 2021 when you were last here as the second half of that Absolute Truth interview that we carried out with yourself. The first half was more focused on the theological aspects of our deen, and the second half that was planned was more on the geopolitical side. But time was short, and perhaps this topic was too early for the general public to be receptive to. Since then, however, another manufactured or engineered crisis has taken place 2 years after the first, in the form of the Russian conflict with Ukraine and the West. The Russian conflict with Ukraine and the West. Muslims have learned a lot more on this topic since then. So now as Muslims, you say that we are preparing for the arrival of the three main actors onto the world stage as we draw closer to the end of history. For this reason, we are also seeking to join our Christian brothers and sisters in the resistance to any form of Dajjalic united power and oppression. On this note, regarding the Nasara, I know you have identified Russia as Rum, or the new Rome in the Quran. I won't ask you how you arrived to this conclusion, as you have an upcoming lecture in London titled, Who is Rum in the Quran? I will also not ask you whether you see Putin as being the second Dhul-Qarnayn, because you hold the view that Qarnayn in the Quran is referred to an age or an epoch, and so we should also do the same as Allah has done in not identifying the Dhul-Qarnayn as a person.
Don't expect me in this interview to give a lecture on Rum.
No,
I can't do that.
No, that's right.
What I can do, however, is to advise, and gently so, that those who want to study the subject of Rum and to answer the question, who is Rum, to gently advise proper methodology. And always, if a subject is mentioned in the Quran by name, then proper methodology is you begin your study with the Quran. Proper methodology also is that the hadith cannot contradict the Quran. So if your primary source of information directs you to Rum, the hadith cannot direct you in another direction. That is enough for those of you who sincerely wish to pursue the truth in the matter. The Quran has mentioned a surah named after Rum. It's called Surah to Rum. And hence this is a subject of significant importance in the Quran, that Allah should give a name of a surah to be Surah to Rum. Secondly, the name Rum is mentioned in that surah by name at the beginning of that surah. So we have no excuse for ignoring the Quran and giving precedence to the hadith. This is not proper scholarship. This is for, excuse me, schoolboys will do this, okay? I mean no disrespect to anyone when I use the word schoolboy. My intention is to direct you to deficiency in your scholarship. That's all. Deficiency. And you should not mind it. I am 80-something years of age by the moon. I have traveled so extensively. I have studied so much. I have written all of these books. So I do have some credentials to teach and to advise. Don't be annoyed with me. Now then, in the Quran, in Surah Al-Rum, Allah speaks about Rum. And when he does so, we recognize from those verses of the surah that Rum is Constantinople. Rum is not Washington and London and Paris. No, Rum is Constantinople. And from Constantinople, you had a parting of ways, and one part of Rome went to the west, and the other part remained in Constantinople. But when you study, sorry, I had this cough during Ramadan, I still have it up to now. I noticed that once I don't open my mouth, I don't cough. So it is something that irritates the system. When I open my mouth to speak, then I do the coughing. So please bear with me. You've been bearing with me all through Ramadan, so you can bear with me now that I'm in London. And this is my first session in London. And alhamdulillah, although it was a long journey and I was tired, I feel refreshed now. I had a nice hot cup of tea. So I'm ready now. I'm ready now. So there was a parting of ways in Constantinople, and that part which came to the West, Allah condemned them in the Quran. You don't know it, go and do your homework. That part which remained in Constantinople, Allah blessed them. and they had a victory. Gulipata room. And Allah said there'll be 2 victories. Min qabl wa min ba'd. The second victory is still to come. Rome, when Constantinople was taken by the Ottoman Empire, that was not by accident. The applause and the victory, we won the victory, we conquered Constantinople, but you do not understand Dajjal. Sometimes I also can't understand Dajjal. And he attacks me, and then only later I realize, and then I suffer as I'm now suffering. Yes, I'm suffering now because I didn't recognize the attack of Dajjal all these years. Yeah. So now then, when Constantinople was taken by the Ottoman Empire, then Rome moved to Moscow. Rome is now in Moscow. Why? Because Constantinople was taken by Dajjal. Okay? And Allah says in the Quran that there'll be 2 victories. And again in Surah Al-Kahf, there's Qarnayn. So in the first Qarn, Gog and Magog were contained and rendered harmless. In the second Qarn, it has to be the same thing. This is enough for us to recognize that Russia has a historic role to play in history, waiting to occur.
Okay. Jazakallah khair for that quick summary. Can you also recall about how Allah has used a zalim, an oppressor in the past, to bring about His will on earth?
There are instances in the past where Allah has used a zalim to fulfill His purposes. There in the Quran, it's also there in the Hadith. And I'm trying to recall now, but you surprised me with this question, so it's a little difficult for me to find now. Allah using a zalim. Yes, I can give you one example.
Yeah.
But I was deceived. Mm-hmm. It took me years to be able to understand. The Orthodox Christian Russia was a backward state with an agrarian economy, and the social system was based on serfdom. This is the beginning of the 20th century. And Allah had His plan, and they had their plans. But Allah planned it in such a way to deceive them, and they didn't recognize. So they thought they had won a great victory when the Bolshevik Revolution took place, and the Tsar and his whole family were killed. Even the Russian people themselves probably are still unaware of the Lord at work, His handiwork. And Wall Street was directly involved in the Bolshevik Revolution. And they felt, the Zionists felt that they had achieved a great victory. And then came the birth of the Soviet Union as, as an atheist state. And then the Soviet Union launched a vicious attack on the Orthodox Christian world, destroying the monasteries and killing the priests and so on. And Washington and Wall Street were happy. The Zionists were happy. We're getting what we want. We want to destroy Russia. They didn't realize the Lord God was using a zalim to fulfill His purpose. Okay? And then slowly, Russia, under the Soviet Union, became a scientifically and technologically powerful nation overnight. And the agrarian economy was transformed to an industry. Ukraine became the heart of the industrial economy of Russia. And the Soviet Union became a military powerful state, a superpower, in a little time. Good. Even the economy, the agricultural economy was transformed. And Russia became a food basket of the world. You see, all of these things did under Soviet rule, an 80 years Soviet rule. And Muslims suffered under the Soviet Union. Yes, they attack all religions. But look at that. When the time came for Allah's plan to be fulfilled, the Soviet Union folded up and disappeared. Okay? And they believed that they had won a great victory. But look what happened. As soon as the Soviet Union folded up and disappeared, within a short period of time, Russia returned to her Orthodox Christian heart. And the same Orthodox Christian world that you wanted to see destroyed, Allah has now blessed them to become more powerful than you are. Russia is now the most powerful military state in the world. If that was not power that Russia had, they would have intervened in Ukraine already. Yes, they did it in the Crimea. And well, why are they afraid to come? Now, what they're doing now is incrementally trying to avoid defeat in Ukraine, because Russia is achieving all that she wanted. Russia got Crimea, then Russia got to demilitarize Ukraine because all her military installations have been destroyed. And Russia is winning the battle now for Donbass. That's all Russia wants. Russia doesn't want the whole of Ukraine at all. Only a schoolboy will believe that. And so now that they are facing defeat in Ukraine, and all the propaganda they have would not hide it, the new plan is to try to expand the war and get Poland to join in some of this, so they could get more fighting going. But Russia is going to be the most powerful state in the world, and this is Allah's promise in the Quran, which is being fulfilled. What is it? وَجَعِلُ الَّذِينَ تَبَعُوكَ فَوْقَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. I'm going to raise those who follow you, O Jesus, high above, dominant over those who have rejected. This is now taking place before our eyes. Yeah. So here is an example of Allah using the Zalim to fulfill his purpose. Yeah.
So on that note, the East and the West, which side has the possibility of religion being revived, and which side looks doomed with the punishment of Allah? I know it's a straightforward, simple question.
It is very plain and clear that despite their success with the US dollar-sponsored regime change in Pakistan, it is plain and clear that the Pakistani people are not betraying their religion. They are opposed to American imperialism. They don't want Pakistan to be an American republic. Only the chief of staff of the Pakistan Armed Forces and his puppy dogs, they are the ones who want Pakistan to be an American republic. And the politicians who are only involved in power politics, they want to gain power by whatever means necessary, including some Maulanas and them. But the people of Pakistan have recognized that in Imran Khan they have a leader who cannot be bought. Not with a mountain of gold. You can't buy this man. So despite the mistakes he has made, they still remain faithful to him. So you have an example in Pakistan of a people from the East who cannot be bought by Dajjal. But when you come to the West, you see that in the West you have a large number of sheep and cattle and goats now. And when the people from Pakistan and Bangladesh and so on come here, and the Arabs come here, they are somehow submerged and become part of this melting pot. And most of them become sheep and cattle, and they have eyes and they don't see, and so they dance to every tune that Dajjal plays. Not all of them, because you'll find Pakistanis here in Britain, in the United States, who support Imran Khan, support the people of Pakistan. Not all of them, but the large numbers of them are like that. So the writing is on the wall. In the rivalry between East and West, It is west which is sinking down, yes, and will not survive.
Okay, so now in preparation for this interview, I read Alexander Dugin's book, The Great Awakening versus Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum's The Great Reset. Now, many of our viewers on Endgame Eschatology will be pleased that we'll be now addressing this because most of the people who follow our channel are very much familiar with Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum's Great Reset. So before I go any further on this book, I would like the listeners to know that I try to be as unbiased as possible and that I have frequently looked at anti-Putin, anti-Dugin, anti-Russian, and even anti-Sheikh material for a couple of years now. I am very much aware of the occultists' chaos magic symbolism and of their belief in creating order out of chaos, also known as Ordo ab Chao. I am also well aware of the connections to the Israeli traditionalist Avigdor Eskin, the Uzinski group, Bolshevism, Nazism, fascism, Crowleyism, and Satanism. Having said that, Sheikh, I would like to begin with some questions based on excerpts from Alexander Dugin's latest book. So today's modern Western society has many popular intellectuals, such as Jordan Peterson, just to name one, that are teaching that the individual matters the most. This is what they're teaching, that the individual matters the most. I have recently heard yourself say that Islam teaches the contrary. Alexander Dugin says that the individual is the last word of the liberal. The more I ponder over these words, the more I start to see words such as selfishness, animalistic, or demonic behavior. The story of arrogant and isolated Iblis comes to mind. My question to you, Sheikh, is, as Muslims, should we be totally against any form of liberalism and individualism?
Nabi Muhammad, Allah's blessings be upon him, is our leader and our guide. And Allah has commanded us in the Quran, follow him. In kuntum ba'da'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. In kuntum tuhibbun Allah fattabi'uni yuhbibkum Allah. If you love me, follow him. I will love you. What did he leave? Did he leave an individual or did he leave a jama'ah? Answer, he didn't leave an individual. He left a jama'ah. So the answer is as plain as a daylight. Our primary obligation is to the jama'ah. The jama'ah. In fact, there's a hadith, there's no Islam without the jama'ah. And there is no jama'ah without a samu wa ta'atu. That is, listening and obeying, discipline. Discipline. You can't have the sheep going in every single direction. You have to be a disciplined sheep. That's why the imam, we have to remind him now, before you lead the salah, the imam must turn around. They're scared to do that, always. They're just scared to do that. Turn around and look at the jama'ah. See that the people are standing in straight lines. See that it's an organized before you lead the salah. But usually the imam is a paid employee. He's scared to turn around and face. I looked at this all through Ramadan. So we have to put the emphasis on the jama'ah and on the discipline of the jama'ah. And this is one of the reasons why I have so much respect for Maulana Abul Ala Maududi. And after him to Dr. Israr Ahmad. May Allah have mercy upon them both. I have never seen the Sufis organize themselves in the way that Maulana Maududi organized the Jamaat Islami, and Dr. Israr Ahmad organized the Tanzim Islami. And there must be examples in other parts of the world of this disciplined Jamaat. May Allah bless them both. So my answer to you is that they may have the individual as their priority. And so they're all going to go in several different directions. And you will not have a disciplined society. Society will disintegrate. Every single one has his own conception of truth. But on this side, in the world of Islam, in the world of Christianity, we would want to have a disciplined organization, disciplined society, where we come together, we have a leader, and that leader is rightly guided, and we follow him. We follow him, yes.
Okay, yeah, Jazakallah khair. So clearly the collective is more important than the individual.
Yadullahi fawqa al-jama'ah. Allah's hand is on the jama'ah.
So would you say that this is the ultimate disguised strategy of divide and conquer by pushing this whole individualism?
It's not divide and conquer. It is putting in place the recipe for the demolition of society. A society which places the emphasis on the individual is eventually going to self-destruct. That's what's happening in the West today. This is a society in a state of collapse. Yes.
Okay. So, as I mentioned earlier, I read the book, and because I know that you haven't had a chance to read the book, Dugin, who is the founder and the leader of the International Eurasia Movement, labels Western political modernity and liberalism as a twin disease. He labels Western political modernity and liberalism as a twin disease. He says Trumpists as well as Dugin appear to want to preserve the conservative and religious values within the family and of society. They are clearly in opposition to this one world, transgendered, homosexual, transhumanist dystopia that Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum agents are trying to bring about with their Great Reset. To Dugin's further credit, he is, to my surprise, this is a list, to Dugin's further credit, he is anti-communism, or in today's world, anti-socialism, anti-fascism, anti-colonialism, anti-progressivism, anti-capitalism, anti-slavery, anti-materialism, anti-atheism. He's pro-Christian, he's pro-Islam, he's pro-spirituality, he's pro-traditional values, he's pro-sacred ancient beliefs and teachings. This is all despite his very dubious earlier life, despite some questionable associations he has had, and despite what his personal religious beliefs currently are or has been. And he is even, now check this bit out, and he is even anti-modern medicine, anti-vaccines, anti-technology, he's against DNA altering, etc. And, this will surprise people as well, and he is pro-Hijra. He's got a special section where he's talking about making exodus from the big industrial cities, returning to real life on the earth, practicing agriculture. This is all very much in line with our fitrah. My question to you, Sheikh, is, as Muslims, or hopefully as mu'mins believers, should we take the side of Dugin's fourth political theory and be part of their great awakening simply because they are against the greater evil of the World Economic Forum soul-destroying Great Reset?
It must have been 10 years ago. I was resident in Malaysia, and Dugin, Professor Dugin, Alexander Dugin, reached out to me, and I was surprised and pleasantly surprised with an invitation to come to lecture at the State University of Moscow, that they were very pleased with what they saw and learned from me, my profile in Islamic scholarship. At that time, he was the chairman of the Department of Sociology, which embraced also political science, at the State University of Moscow. And this is the largest university and most prestigious university in the whole of Russia. And I eventually traveled to Moscow in 2013, just for 1 week. And it was a marvelous experience for me. I was treated with respect. I was treated with affection in the university. I gave a lecture there. I had an interview with Dugin, and I traveled around in Moscow and so on. Wherever I went, I was treated with respect. I can't expect the same thing in the West. No. Yes, you're right. Always, I'm proud to see that you do so much reading. I wish I had the time to do it. I have not read Dugin's book so far, but you have done it. I'm very happy to see this. In fact, when Allah calls me away from this world, I'll be leaving happily. That I've planted seeds, and there are so many students of mine now, so many people attached to me, and who will not dismiss me and turn away from me because somebody put a nasty video, a film in a man's private life and bring it in the public to then turn away from me. No, you have to separate private life from public life. And if someone in the public is disgraceful, yes, turn away from me. When something from private is brought out, sinfully so, and it comes to you, you should just delete it. Yes, delete it. So I am now very pleased to see so many of you rising, mashallah, and you, Uwais, I'm proud of you, that you will tomorrow be, mashallah, many, many brilliant scholars of Islam coming who will be different in their profile of scholarship from what is produced by the Darul Uloom. I'm not battering the Darul Uloom. I don't have hatred in my heart for you. I'm just trying to tell you that your model of scholarship is deficient. That's all. You continue with that, what will you produce? You will not be able to produce the scholar that we want in this age. I'm asking you to turn away from that model and to turn this model which produced Dr. Muhammad Iqbal, which produced Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari, which produced Imran. This is the model for the future. So I don't hate you. You're closing the doors of the masjid on me. May Allah forgive you. You all turning against me. May Allah forgive you. I just want good for you, that you could turn to this model of scholarship, which will change you. So now then, what should we do with Dugin and his model of scholarship? My answer is, always I have spent the last few years of my life, and I'm now about to embark on yet another effort. As soon as I leave Britain, I have decided to cancel Belgium, and I'll be going straight to Netherlands. And it's going to be exciting there in Netherlands. I'm the first time. Someone has been translating my books to Dutch, and may Allah bless her and build a house in Jannah for her. So several of my books are now going to be printed in Dutch. After Rotterdam and Amsterdam, I'm going to Armenia, which is going to be exciting in Armenia, although it's 1 week, because my students are arranging for me to meet with the Orthodox Christian Church in Armenia and with intellectuals there. It's going to be exciting. And then from there to Russia, if I get a visa, 1 second visit, and then to Switzerland and to Greece. Greece is important because the Greek people have been happy to hear that our prophet has prophesied that we will conquer Constantinople. They don't have to do it. And my view is that when we conquer Constantinople, we'll return Hagia Sophia to them, to the Greek, not to the Russian, to the Greek. So they are so happy in Greece. And my book, Constantinople in the Quran, has been translated to Greek, and we launch it there. And then I go to Albania and Macedonia. Again, in Albania and Macedonia, you have Muslims and Orthodox Christians. Why am I doing this all these years? I'm working to build fraternity between the world of Islam and the world of Orthodox Christianity. Fraternity between Islamic scholarship and Orthodox Christian scholarship. I'm working for this, and some people are saying now that Imran is a pioneer of this fraternity, which is now emerging. So certainly we'll want to embrace Dugin, embrace his scholarship, and build fraternity between our scholarship and his scholarship. And in the process of building fraternity, interacting, ways will both benefit.
It does appear so, yes. So Dugin also says that Satanists such as Crowley, LaVey, Lovecraft are not the real concern, as they do not hide and are open about what they do and believe, Rather, he says, it is modern science and modern culture that is the real black magic. This is what he says in his book. Rather, it is modern science and modern culture that is the real black magic, as modern civilization is a preparation for Ad-Dajjal, the Antichrist. These are his words. Can you provide us any reminders from your eschatological studies that support this statement of Dugin's?
We don't turn to the word magic,
right,
and the word sorcery and so on in a limited context. We do it in a bigger context, because in the Quran, in Surah to Sabah, I think it is, when Sulaiman alayhi salam was given the vision, وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّ سُلَيْمَانَ وَالْقَيْنَا عَلَى كُرْسِيهِ جَسَدٌ مَّأَنَابٍ. In that passage, when Sulaiman asked Allah, وَهَبْ لِي مُلْكًا لَا يَنْبَغِي لِأَحَدٍ مِّن بَعْدِي. Grant me a kingdom which none can inherit after me, and also grant me a kingdom which will be incomparable, none can compare with it after me. In the response from Allah, He gave him the jinn, the shayateen of the jinn, to work for him. Good? And Allah spoke about the shayateen in construction of high buildings and going down into the depths of the ocean and the earth and so on. The sky and the earth. Ya ma'ashar al-jinni, ya ma'ashar al-jinni wal-ins, in istata'tum an tanfuzu min aqtari samawati wal-ard. Samawati wal-ard. Fanfuzu. So the jinn are at work, and these are not the jinn who are Muslim, these are the jinn who are shayateen, is there in the Quran. So we know that modern Western civilization, cryptocurrency and all, is supported by these evil beings. This is nothing new for us. We are aware of this, okay? And we are not surprised, therefore, when the jinn are attacking us in this way. But there's a way to protect yourself. Why is it that we've been teaching again and again, begging my students, make sure you recite the Quran every day. Make sure that you recite the correct juz. Make sure that you do not cut any surah, the Quran in them. This is the best gift I have given to you in my life. When I leave this world, this is the gift I'm leaving with you, that all my students will be reciting the Quran every day and completing the Quran every month. If you do this, the Quran will protect you.
Yep. Jazakallah khair. Okay, so I remember also Sheikh Umar Balush saying that the nature of batil is such that it needs a leg of truth to stand on.
It needs a leg of truth on which to stand on, yes. Ibrahim says in the Quran, don't blame me, blame yourself. I didn't tell you to do that. Iblis is speaking in the Quran. Okay? And the Prophet said, he spoke the truth, even though he's Iblis, he spoke the truth. So yes, the Sheikh Umar is correct. May Allah bless Sheikh Umar Baloch. I'm proud of him and his work. That they do have a leg of truth on which to stand, because if you have a snake, and you have a snake with the head not hidden, everybody will see it. You have to hide the head of the snake. Why do you think banks are giving away so many computers as gifts? Why are banks giving away so many computers as gifts? Because they want to hide the head of the snake.
Absolutely. The reason why I bring that up is because, again, a lot of our viewers will be familiar when they're suspicious. So I brought up the nature of batil for that reason, because many say that both warring factions on the east and the west represent two sides of the same coin. They say that this is also represented in the Scottish Rite Masonic double-headed eagle symbol found on their flags, the occultic east versus the occultic west. I have to mention this Therefore, some claim that we should keep clear of the chaos being brought by both sides, as even the side wanting to preserve religion may have its own nefarious, insidious agenda. My question to you, Sheikh, is, should we, your students, remain skeptical, impartial and cautious, or should we drop what seems to have become this insane purity testing of everyone and everything that someone says and does? And maybe instead of purity testing everyone, we should be active in promoting the good words and messages that come from Eastern Orthodox Russia.
There is a litmus test. When you recognize someone is going astray, there is a way to deal with it. And Allah has given that way in Surah Al-Kahf. Every single one of us make mistakes. Every single one of us. No one is free from sin. What do you do when you find people going astray? How do you deal with them? Even if they are Christians or Hindus or what. In Surah Al-Kahf, we are introduced to the most learned of all men, who is the model of a guide in the end times. And he is Khidr alayhi salam. I am not Khidr. No, I'm just a humble, simple teacher. I teach the Quran to the best of my ability. I am not a Khidr, so don't tell me I'm a Khidr, no. But when Musa alayhi salam, who symbolizes his ummah, an ummah, a people who believe that they are the chosen people of the Lord God, that they are born superior to the rest of mankind. They are a privileged people. They are the elite of mankind. This arrogance in them. So Musa symbolizes, alayhi salam, his ummah. And when Musa went to Khidr alayhi salam and said, I want to follow you to learn from you, look at how Khidr responded. When someone comes to you and is hungry, his heart is thirsty for the truth, and he is humble, you treat him nicely. You treat him kindly. You treat him with love. And you have endless patience with such a person. But when someone comes to you with boxing gloves, with a chip on their shoulder, arrogant, as though they've never committed any sin ever in their life, and they are the elite of mankind, what do you do with such people? Khidr Islam said, no, you can't travel with me. You'll never be able to show patience with me. How can you, when you cannot even penetrate you cannot encompass the scholarship I have for you, the knowledge. So then when Musa said, I'll show patience, what did he say? You can come. Don't ask me any questions. Look at that. Don't ask me any questions. This is how you treat these people who have this arrogance and they want to be argumentative. They believe that they're ever right and nobody else is right. And I am wrong and you're wrong. So leave these people. But others who are willing to learn, then you treat these people, you pay attention to those who want to learn, who have sincerity in their hearts, who have hunger in their hearts. These you have to be patient with them, loving with them, kind with them, teach them. And these are the ones who will be able to benefit, whether they are Christians or Muslims. There's so many Christians now listening to me. So many Christians who want to learn from me. Why? Because I have treated them with respect. Yeah. And no boxing gloves, not at all. So between the world of Islam and the world of Orthodox Christianity, don't jump up on a table, take the Shahada, take the Shahada. This is wisdom? Is this wisdom? That's the schoolboy. Allah says, call people to the way of Allah with wisdom. This is what I have done, and mashallah, look at the results. While I'm still alive, before I've gone from the world, look at the results, alhamdulillah.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Okay. On the note of Eastern Orthodox Russia, I know you hold the view that the people of Russia are slowly returning to their Orthodox Christian roots. Do you mean the average ordinary citizen slowly returning to its Orthodox roots, and not necessarily the corrupt leaders, government, politicians, and the elite? And should we take note of the distinction between returning and returned? I.e., when we say returning, it means they've begun the transition. And when you say returned, it's completed.
Russia already has the best leadership in the world today. It's not becoming, it's not transforming, it's already established. The Russian government represents the best government in the world today, the most mature government in the world today. They saw what happened in 2014. They realized what happened in 2014. They were able to act in 2014 to salvage and get Crimea back to where Russia is. It was formerly Russian territory, and now it's back again as Russia. That was a wonderful, wonderful example that the Russian government was not asleep. Is Russia returning to her Orthodox Christian rule? Go to Russia now and tell them that you should pass a law that a man can marry another man and get a marriage certificate. See what they do with you in Russia? Huh? If you go to America, Britain, France, or the West, and you oppose this, they say you're suffering from a disease called homophobia. But there you could see evidence in Russia. I don't need any lectures from any of my critics. You can see the evidence already in Russia, substantial evidence, that Russia is returning to her Orthodox Christian roots. And that does not make Russia hostile to Islam. When Russia returned to the Orthodox Christian roots, Russia ignored the Russian Orthodox Church in Moscow, ignored them, and built the biggest masjid in the whole of Europe in Moscow, despite the fact that the Russian Orthodox Church was not yet ready for that. The government did. So Russia returning to her Orthodox Christian heart is a good sign for the world of Islam.
And so many say to me quite frequently that those who follow the Trinity are misguided. Are there any examples of the past where Allah had blessed or favored those who worshipped Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala, despite their misguidance towards the Trinity?
I have already spoken on this subject so many times, but it goes through one ear, it comes out of the other because it is uncomfortable for those critics of mine. I have explained the Quran on this subject. It goes through one ear, it comes out the other ear. They don't want to hear what is uncomfortable for them. I pointed out to them that Constantinople or Rome, at the time of Nabi Muhammad والسلام, had already embraced the Trinity, was already worshipping Jesus as the Son of God. And yet, in the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ, Allah helped them. بِنَصْرِ اللَّهِ يَنْصُرُ مَن يَشَاءُ. Allah helped them. Here is evidence as plain as sunshine that despite the fact that Allah condemns the Trinity, condemns the worship of Jesus as the Son of God and the second person, He condemns it in the Quran, yet in His wisdom, He chose to help them. And they were victorious with His help. Here's the evidence. But as I said, Wes, I can repeat this 100 million times. It goes through one ear, it comes out of the other ear. There are people who will refuse. They refuse to submit to the Quran.
Yeah. We're familiar with this. This is actually a question because it's usually a response from what you said.
I'm fed up with people who choose not to think, and I'm fed up with people who are refusing to submit to truth in the Quran. Fed up with them.
Okay, so back to Dugin's book again. The Great Awakening is a term that Dugin says is coined by the QAnons, the Trumpists, and Alex Jones followers. Dugin also says that Trumpism is more important than Trump himself. I loved when I read this in his book. It just blew me away. Dugin says that Trumpism is more important than Trump himself. It appears this is what you are trying to show us, that Duginism is more important than Dugin himself, because people are very quick to character assassinate and find all kinds of secrets or connections. So that's what it appears to me, that Duginism is more important than Dugin himself. And so the details of what he believes or what secret society he may or may not belong to does not matter as much. A bit like Gandhi, whom you frequently quote. Am I right in saying that the shirk or the polytheism that he practiced did not matter as much as the good words he spoke or the good values he held and the good actions that he carried out? My question to you, Sheikh, is this. Is this the lens with which you are looking at the likes of Trump, Putin, Dugin, and maybe some other leaders of the past?
I have no comment to make on Professor Dugin's private life or personal life. No comment to make on that. I have not studied his books, so I cannot comment on them. You have studied it, and I'm proud of you always for having done that. What I can say is that Dugin reached out to me when I was in Malaysia and mentioned how pleased they were with my profile of scholarship in Islamic eschatology, when my own people were rejecting me. And they're still rejecting me to this day. I'm accustomed to their rejection. And Dugin invited me to Moscow, and I went. And when I went there, they treated me with respect. They treated me with affection. He and his whole team. He invited me to lecture at the State University of Moscow, which was a great honor. I don't know any other Islamic scholar who's been honored like that. I wouldn't get an invitation from Harvard or Yale or the Sorbonne or the University of London or Oxford or Cambridge. Never. I will never get that invitation. But the most important university in Russia invited me. And I went and I lectured, and my lecture was received with respect. So I have positive views about Dugin. I had an interview with him, a long interview. I don't think it was ever published. But it showed a meeting of minds between him and me. We were both on the same wavelength. So I have only good things to say about Dugin. And whoever is not comfortable with that, go your way and leave me alone.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree with you, Sheikh, because when I read it, everything that he was saying seemed to be in line with the Islamic spirit. And yeah, it just seems like us Muslims should just stop this whole serious scrutiny and purity testing of everyone. But moving on. So Dugin also says the Great Reset offers nothing. So this is again more interesting. Dugin also says the Great Reset offers nothing, theoretically, not even remotely something that might appeal to Muslims. Is the West's unipolarity a Dajjalic trademark? If so, should we Muslims be for Dugin's Eurasian vision of a multipolar world order?
There's several questions there in one.
Yeah.
Let us answer the first one.
Okay.
There are Muslims who have eyes with which to see, and they can see and understand. And my lectures help them. And there are others who have eyes and yet cannot see. Those who have eyes and yet cannot see, whenever Dajjal plays a new tune, they dance to it. And so, for them, there's a great reset. But not for those who have eyes and who can see. And I have been helping them to see. They can recognize that, as the French say, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. It's the same thing over and over again. Dajjal is simply playing new tunes, pursuing the same agenda. So there is no great reset for the Muslim who can see. What he does is he recognizes what's happening in the world with every new tune. Like there was a tune yesterday, I don't know if you heard it, that when you go to the masjid, you must put on a face mask. If you don't have a face mask, you cannot perform salat. Wait for Judgment Day with this bid'ah. And secondly, that when you're performing salat, you have to stand 3 feet apart like monkeys. In Pakistan, they call them bandar. Huh? Yes, this is my harsh language. And they dance to the tune. They dance to the tune, you see. But those who had eyes to see, they refused to go to the masjid to participate in that bogus salat. This is the difference between those who have eyes and who can see, and others who dance to every tune that the Dajjal plays. So Dugin is right on the first one, that yes, this is just the same thing all over again. Muslims are not going to fall for it. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So, as we reach the end of this interview, I recall you saying that one side of Christianity, Santa Claus Christianity, wants to arrogantly rule the world, and the other side does not. Alexander Dugin appears to be solely focused on the bringing about of the Eurasian supercontinent, the world island, and has laid out the foundations and framework in his books for all of Russia, from the government to the public institutions to follow. This is evident in his book on the Fourth Political Theory, which was published in 2009. In this book, Dugin states that he is laying the foundations for an entirely new political ideology, which integrates and supersedes liberal democracy, Marxism, and fascism. In this theory, the main subject of politics is not individualism, which deceptively, this is my comment, which deceptively sounds completely against the fitra, class struggle, or nation. So he says it's not about individualism, but rather existence itself, which they call this German word, Dasein. I know you are famously known, Sheikh, as an eschatologist, but it seems as though people have forgotten that you are a philosopher. Dasein, sorry, if you can just bear with me. Dasein is a German word that means being there or presence, and is often translated into English with the word existence. This is a fundamental concept in the existential philosophy of Martin Heidegger. It is the philosophy of Heidegger that all of Dugin's work appears to be derived from. So my final question to you, Sheikh, is, are there any parallels to Islamic philosophy with regards to the existence of the human being itself over any individualism, class struggle, or nation?
Again, Uwais, you've asked several questions in one. I can't answer all of them. First of all, Professor Dugin is a political scientist and also a man who has faith in Orthodox Christianity. To what extent he brings his faith to bear on his political science, I am not in a position to tell because I have not studied his works. So I take him as a political scientist. I, on the other hand, yes, I have done a master's degree in philosophy. Yes, I am, alhamdulillah, by Allah's kindness, pioneering Islamic eschatology. Remember that when I was a student at the Alimia Institute of Islamic Studies in Pakistan, Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari, rahimahullah, brought a teacher with a PhD in philosophy to teach us the philosophy of history. And that 1 year of study, 1 year and a half, with Professor Dr. Burhan Ahmed Farooqi, teaching me the philosophy of history. Although Professor Farooqi did not have the foundation in the Quran that he should have had to teach the subject, what he did teach me helped me to be able to build a foundation in the philosophy of history. The movement of history includes the movement of political history. Where is the world moving? In which direction the world is moving politically in history? So I have an Islamic eschatological view of the movement of history, but it's too complex for this debate. I mean, sorry, for this interview, and it'll take too much time. But I want to see students of mine coming forward who will have a grasp of the philosophy of history, who will be able to recognize the direction of the movement of history using the Quran as the guide, because then you can see what even the political scientists cannot see. Remember, I have studied in several universities, so I know political science from the universities. Yes, there is some difference between my views and those of Professor Dugan, but it will be an absolute delight if two of us, he and I, can get together for a session, a long, intense session, in which he can expand and expound on his political scientist view, and I do on my Islamic eschatological view. It will be a very exciting encounter.
I completely agree, Sheikh, and Jazakallah khair for being patient with my long questions. Inshallah, the next time they'll be shorter and simpler. So that's it for today, Sheikh. Any last words from yourself?
I just ask of you, those who view this video, take pity on this old man and keep me in your du'as, inshallah. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. We look forward to doing this again soon. And until then, may Allah bless your trip here in the UK and every meeting, conference, or event you attend.
Ameen, ameen, ya Rabbal Alameen.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamualaikum.